The MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Nordic Fantasy. You go into 325 times your entry with the new pick is on the promo code MLB SGPN. Claim your special pick any first time deposit offer up to $2 in bonus cash on Nordic Fantasy promo code MLB SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Build your own betting model using their AI betting engine. Claim your 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the MLB Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Friday afternoon, roughly 5 p.m. Eastern Time on July 12th. I'm your host for this episode, Scott Reichel, joined once again by Lonte Smith. And together we're going to break down the Saturday MLB card. Lonte, not many games left before the All-Star break. You excited?
I am, yeah, man. It's good to get a reset. We got some data to go by, and kick off a second half, and hopefully be as profitable as we've been for the first half. So yeah, excited to get a little break in the action, and assess some of these teams, see what they do at the deadline, and get ready for the home stretch.
Yeah, I do have a brief announcement to do, though, which is the fact that I know Adam and I are going to be doing the Home Run Derby episode. So we are
That's
going to be
right.
breaking down the
Yeah.
Home Run Derby at some point during the weekend.
Yes,
Should be
sir.
fun. I don't know if you're a big Home Run Derby guy. They changed the format again. I'll go into more detail about that in the episode that we do for the Home Run Derby. Are you a big MLB All-Star weekend or All-Star festivities guy?
Yeah, not really. I'm not an all-star weekend in any sport, to be honest. I mean, but that's some people think. I think the home run derby is probably the home run derby and the 3-point contest is probably two of the better events during All-Star. I will say that. I will say that much.
Yeah, not many great events in general,
Yeah.
because you'd rather watch actual competitive sport as opposed to exhibition stuff.
I guess
But
baseball is like probably the most competitive.
it is. It used to be more competitive when World Series stuff was being determined
Yeah,
by the All
depending
Star
on
game, which
yeah.
I still think was kind of cool. I understand that it was dumb, but I kind of enjoyed it. But anyway, point is, I do think at the end of the day, no matter how bad the festivities might be, can't be worse than the Pro Bowl. So you got
Absolutely
that
not.
going for you, which is
Absolutely not.
always the worst of all of them. But anyway, Lonte, I'm going to ask you, though, before we officially start the 16-game schedule, which sounds impossible, but there's a doubleheader. So we actually have a 16-game slate to go through. I'm going to ask you in general about your last couple days. How's baseball been?
Not too bad, man. I know I had unfortunately I was on the podcast with Dylan for the games yesterday, and of course saw Skeens. I had Milwaukee, and of course Skeens, basically throws a no hitter.
Yep.
So that wasn't fun. And then I had a switch up of pitching. Anderson was on the card to go, but then he's going today instead. So lost the dog there. But yeah, yesterday was probably about a wash, and then the rest of the week has been slightly above average. So I'm looking to capitalize on these new series taking place, and bleeding into the weekend with some summer league stuff. But yeah, looking forward to the card this weekend. Got some intriguing matchups for sure.
Yeah, I know you've been busy with the summer league stuff, so looking forward to breaking that down. If you're still an underdog, by the way, just take the Brawny lower on points in
Right.
basically every game, and that's a free piece to a potential entry. Anyway, time to get into the actual games. Before we continue that, do want to remind you once again that we have more featured shows on the network besides this show, obviously. And the featured show of the week is going to be the Propcast, because Munaf finally got power again in Texas, and he is back with Chris, and they're getting you ready for the NFL season on the Propcast. They have episodes dedicated to season-long props and award markets. They have, for example, the Coach of the Year market. They have Comeback Player of the Year. Then they cover basically all the awards. So if you do want to check out some NFL, I'd say preview for the upcoming season during the off season, then I recommend checking out some episodes. Plus, a reminder, check out CJ Sullivan and his road to $10 million on Bottom Line Bombs. Tune wherever you do get your podcast or on the SGPN app. Anyway, time to get into the actual card. Once again, 16 games, a lot of games to cover. So we're going to do our best to cover all of them in a pretty quick fashion. First game, you have the Dodgers taking on the Tigers. This one should be an interesting one because you have Screwball pitching, and we know how good Screwball is. Right now, the favorite to win Screwball pitching tonight. Sorry, Screwball's pitching tonight. You have Montero, who is pitching for the Tigers, and you have, oh boy, Robleski pitching for the Dodgers. Dodgers are minus 120. They're give or take 120. I see like 130 in some other spots, and the Tigers are around even money to plus money. And for the over/under in this game, you have the line being set at 9.5. Lonte Montero has not really had a great year, but he was good last time out, so we'll see if he can duplicate that. Dodgers have been mediocre recently. I can't say they've done anything that's been amazing, but they're still coasting to a division title. Last two starts, though, for Montero is he ended up being solid. 12 and 2/3, 2 runs allowed combined. Lonte, I'm going to ask you, I really don't know much about Robleski, but so far his numbers are not very good. Tigers have been in good form, though. So
Yeah.
I am going to ask you, they beat the Guardians in a series, swept the Reds. You want to back the hot Tigers, or do you want to go with the Dodgers in this one?
Yeah, I'm leaning that way. I like the over more. I know Detroit's playing well. 7-3 last 10, found some offense, 5+ runs and 7 of 10. The Dodgers, like you mentioned, kind of going through the motions. I think they're like, ready to cross that finish line and get to All-Star break. Their starting pitching has kind of, regressed a little bit in their last 10. Got a 9.43 ERA and runs per 9, just the starting pitchers only. Opponents hitting 300 versus their starting pitchers the last 10. So a little bit of regression set in for them. I think they still need to add some rotational pieces there. So we'll see what they do at the deadline. Montero's coming off, 6 1/3 scoreless versus Cleveland. So he's, okay. Obviously, Cleveland's lineup is good, but it's not the Dodgers. But then again, the Dodgers haven't been playing like the Dodgers as of late, especially since Mookie went down. He had a couple of games here and there, but and the Dodgers, they face some tough opponents. So they're, Milwaukee and Philadelphia back-to-back. They're 2-4 in that span, 2 runs or less in 3 of their last 4. So I'm expecting them to have a good game here offensively. So I'll go with the over, lean to Detroit, though.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean to the Tigers as well. There's not much separating these teams, at least based on the pitchers. I do think Montero's better at this point, but I don't know how much you can trust him long term. Detroit, though, has been in a great form. Cleveland's been slumping, but they still were able to take care of business at home. And I once again think that the Dodgers have been underachieving. I understand that Mookie is injured. I get it, but they've not been very good lately. So I'll back the hotter team at a plus money price. Moving on to the next game, you have the Pirates taking on the White Sox. For this one, you have Ortiz pitching against Flexen. The Pirates are pretty decent favorites here. They're about minus 150, and you're looking at the White Sox being around plus 130, give or take. For the over-under in this game, you have it set at 8.5 or 9. Lonte, Pittsburgh window is not very good, but they are better than the White Sox. Flexen has been really, I don't want to say an unlucky loser this season, but they lose basically every start that he's made, and he's not been horrible. Last start, for example, 6 innings, 2 runs against the Twins. They had a 3-run lead and they blew it, and they lost in the 11th inning. But if you want to go through the last couple of starts for Flexen, the White Sox have lost each of his last 11 starts. And so far this season, out of all the starts he's made, the White Sox have won a grand total of 2. So
Crazy.
the White Sox are 2 in all the games he's pitched in 19 games this season. In all of the games he's pitched in, they are 2-17.
Jesus.
So I'm going to ask you, Pirates, or do you think that Flexen could actually win one?
Yeah, well, Flexen hasn't been bad. I mean, 5 straight losses, but you just look at his numbers. I mean, they're pretty good. I think you just routed off a few of them. I mean, 2.80 ERA in his last 5, despite being 0-5. The only thing that he's struggling with is kind of giving up home runs. He's allowed 7 in his last 5. But Pittsburgh's offense, not really one that, hits bombs or whatever the case may be. They've been up and down, 2 runs or less in 5 of their last 10. I think the way to go is I'm going to play a full unit on the first 5 under, and then a half unit on the full game under, simply because, the Chicago bullpen has been terrible. I mean, if you look at the last 10 games, their starters ERA is 2.65 and their relievers are 5.18. So that just goes to show you, they're just not getting the job done on the back end. I think me and you both wouldn't expect anything less. Ortiz in good form, despite being 2-3, ERA of 1.40 in his last 5. All 5 of his starts have went under, 1 earned run or less in 4 of his last 5. So he's in good form. I think Flexen will pitch just well enough against the offense who's pretty much below average. So I'll go first 5 under, full game under.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in this one. I just think they'll find a way to get it done. But I actually like the first 5 under in this game. Ortiz, I'm not sure if he's going to give up anything because the White Sox can hit, and he's been very good, as you mentioned before. An ERA in the 1s in his last 5. And Flexen, despite not having a good record, he was good the last time out. In fact, that's actually been kind of a common theme recently. He has not gotten totally destroyed in 3 of his last 4 starts. He has given up less than 4 earned in 3 of his last 4. So I think that he's in good enough form to pitch decently in this game. I think Ortiz can pitch well, and both offenses I'm really not sold on. So give me the first 5 under. Full game total right now, once again, is around 8.5 or 9. So you might be able to actually get like a 4.5, maybe a juiced 5, probably 4.5 in the first 5. So I don't mind that angle, and I'll just ignore the bullpens. Moving on to the next game on the card. You have Lonte. I'm actually going to ask you about this. Do you want to break up the doubleheader, or do you want to do both of them back to back?
No, I figure we just stay with both of them, because I'm pretty much going to have the same handicap for both of them anyway.
Okay, so we're going to group them together. The first game of the doubleheader with the Cubs is at 2:15, by the way. Second game is at around 8:15, so we are going to group them. I do have to admit, though, we have no listed pitcher for the second game for the Cubs, so that's why there are no lines. In fact, we have no lines on either of these games, so it's not going to take much time. So for this one, the first game right now, you have Wisniewski taking on Lynn. No lines at all, but the Cubs, don't look now, swept the Orioles. They've actually been in good form recently.
Yep.
And the Cardinals have been fine. They've been barely over 500 for about a month, and that's where they're at right now. They're 4 over. So you have Wisniewski taking on Lynn, and then the late game you have undecided against Gibson. I mean, I like the Cubs in game 1. I'm not a Lynn guy, and Wisniewski's actually been pretty good so far this season. Cubs are in good form, so I do think I am going to go with the Cubs in the first game. Second game, I guess I'm going with the chop, the classic doubleheader chop.
Yep.
Give me the Cardinals in game 2. You?
Yeah, I agree there as well. I like the over more, especially the first 5 in the first game. St. Louis has had success against Chicago this year, 4-1. 4 of those 5 went under, but I think they're in better form right now. I mean, we saw what you mentioned, what Chicago did to Baltimore in Baltimore. So they've scored 5+ runs in 5 of the last 7 games. Chicago's last 10, 5.1 runs per 9, hitting 251 on around 9 hits. St. Louis' last 10 looks pretty much familiar. I mean, pretty much similar. 5 runs per 9. They're hitting 278 on 10.4 hits. The bullpen for Chicago has been excellent for both teams, actually, in the last 10. 1.32 ERA, 2.72 ERA for St. Louis. So I'm going to take the bullpens out of it, being that they've been pitching so well. So I'll go first 5 over, just lean to the full game over them.
And that's for which game?
That's for game 1. That's for game 1. For game 2, I'm staying away from game 2 until I can see who's pitching for the Cubs.
Yeah, I actually don't mind Wisniewski. I think he's fine. Lynn is still in the league, and his ERA is, I guess, okay for Lance Lynn standards at 4.48. But
got shelled last start, 10 earned runs.
I was going to say I'm not a fan. I know the Nationals killed him, so I'm not exactly a fan of his current form. Last start, 2 2/3 and 9 hits, 11 runs, 10 earned.
Yep.
Not good. So, yeah, I'll go with the Cubs in this one. Cubs will make the playoffs. Just saying. I think that this team is actually not terrible. The bullpen got figured out, and I think the offense is good enough to maybe score some runs. Not to mention the fact that Steele has been incredible recently, and we already know how good Imanaga's been all season long. So, yeah, the Cubs maybe can make a run at a playoff spot. Who knows?
Yeah.
But for game 2, I'll lean to Gibson. I got nothing. I can't break it down unless I know what the actual pitching matchup's going to be, since the Cubs haven't listed anybody. So I'll lean to the Cardinals in game 2. But that's all I got. You?
Yeah, that's it for game 2. I mean, I just, I don't know. I'm pretty sure Gibson's going to be a healthy size favorite because, I mean, Sonny Gray is like 200 today. So I'm guessing Gibson will probably be around that same number. So definitely don't want to lay that with St. Louis.
I think they'll be a bit cheaper if I had to guess. So? I think Gibson will be, if I had to guess, like 160, 170, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
It all depends who the Cubs sent out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so it's hard to kind of differentiate it.
Yeah. Either way, though, before we get into any of the other games on the slate, do want to remind you once again that you're brought to you by Munaf Fantasy because their pick 8 is still alive. Create entries up to 8 picks and automatically double flex your entries. So it's 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement's higher than ever. Best part, you can now up to 325 times the original amount. You can now use specials and boosts on all flexed entries, and I'm going to keep using injuries, rebounds higher on basically every game. If you want to throw in Caitlin Clark, higher assists, by the way, she's at 11 plus assists in 4 straight. So keep an eye out for that. The rookies have done quite well with their actual stat numbers, so keep that in mind. Sign up with the promo code MLB SGPN to claim your special weekend first time deposit offer up to $2 bonus cash on a fantasy promo code MLB SGPN. We're also brought to you by Circus Survivor and Circa Millions. Circus Sports is back with Circus Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And of course, Circa contests have no rake. Circa Millions, pick 5 NFL teams ATS each week and compete for $6 million to survive the NFL Gauntlet in NFL Survivor to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circus Sports between now and September 7th. And use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with promo code SGP. Don't have a trip booked for Las Vegas yet before football? Ultimate Contest Weekend's a great time to go. Hang out with Ryan and Sean and enjoy some of the open bar events at the World's Best Sportsbook from August 22nd through the 24th. Welcome back, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Just finished going through the doubleheader with the Cubs and the Cardinals. Now it's time for the rest of the slate. Going to get into arguably the game of the day between the Yankees and the Orioles. Should be a fun series there, as those teams are neck and neck in the AL East. So for this one, you have a good pitching matchup as you have Heel going up against Grayson Rodriguez, and you have the Orioles at about minus 135. You have the Yankees at plus 115. For the over-under in this game, you have the total being set at around 9 or 8.5. Rodriguez has been great this season, 11-3, 3.52 ERA. Heel's been good. He had a bit of a slip-up, I'd say, about a month ago or a couple weeks ago, but he was very good against the Red Sox in that Sunday night game.
Should have won
Did
that
get
game.
the loss, but he went 6 2/3, gave up 1 run. Still not good in 3 of his last 4, and he has actually lost 3 of his last 4 starts. Lonte, we know Grayson's been great. Baltimore, though, did get swept by the Cubs in their last series. Yankees are in free fall, though. So, you interested, or you'd rather just take Baltimore?
I mean, honestly, Baltimore's been slipping as well. If you think about if the Yankees can just win, I know they caught a rough one last night. I mean, how many people did we leave on base? Like last night and against Boston in the whole series. I mean, top of the first, 1 out. We got guys on second and third can't get a run.
It's because Torres sucks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I mean, anybody outside of Rice, Judge, and Soto right now just not doing it. Baltimore has had our number this year, 5-2. They won 4 of those 5 games by 2+ runs. But they've been struggling 2 combined runs in the last 3 games. Their bullpen has kind of been, really bad. 6.69 ERA, 6.92 runs per 9. Opponents hitting 280 against them. So I mean, I'm kind of torn, Scott, to be honest with you. I'm probably going to end up taking an under, thinking that we see both of these pitchers perform well, especially with how both offenses. I think the problem is the Yankees are actually hitting the ball. It's just they can't hit it when it matters, when guys are on base. So
they leave guys on base every inning.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's an issue. I just don't think that when it matters, they can kind of. It seems like we always have the guys coming up that we know are going to strike out or hit into a double play or whatever the case may be, and not get guys across. So. Until that's fixed, Scott, I mean, I'm probably gonna be off the Yankees until we see some moves. I don't know if we're ever gonna see them, but yeah, I'm gonna stay this. I'm gonna probably not play this, but I'll probably just lean to the under if I had to play something.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna lean to the under as well, mainly because the Yankees can't score. So I think there's a couple ways to get there. Baltimore, I'm gonna give them a bit of a pass though, even though they were at home. They faced Imanaga and Steele.
Yeah,
that's probably not gonna go well, and they got destroyed.
Yeah, that's fair.
In those 2 games. But with the Yankees being in bad form, the worst form in the league for about the past month, I'm not going to back them, simply put. So I am going to lean Baltimore, but I am going to lean to the under as well. 9 feels a bit high with these 2 pitchers being in solid form for the most part this season. And he'll bounce back after being bad for about 3 straight starts. I think he'll look fine, but I am going to go with the under with you on this one. Moving on to the next one, you have the Athletics taking on the Phillies. For this one, the Phillies are obviously massive favorites, as the Phillies are around minus 205, give or take. And for the total, you have the line being set at about 9.5. So Spence is getting the start for Oakland, and so far this season, he has been kind of up and down. Phillips, though, is pitching for Philly. Relative unknown, but he does have a 2.25 ERA. Spence, though, to go through his last outing, he ended up struggling against Baltimore, 6 innings, 5 runs, 4 earned against the Orioles. So he has given up at least 4 runs in 2 of his last 3, at least 4 runs in 3 of his last 5. So he has been struggling a bit more recently. And the A's, by the way, have lost 6 of his last 7 starts. So with that being the case, I think I am going to lean to the Phillies minus 1.5. look good against the Dodgers. So I think that with Harper back in the lineup, I think they look solid. And I do think that the Phillies being 36-14 at home, that's good enough for me. By comparison, by the way, the A's are 13-35 on the road. So give me Phillips -1.5.
Yeah, I like that as well. I'm gonna go with the team total to go over, Scott. Last 10 games, Phillies hitting 276, and this is without Bryce and Sorber in the lineup, so they're getting those guys back, probably bolster those numbers up. They're scoring 5 runs per 9 on about 10 hits, 1.5 home runs in that span as well. The thing that's going better for them is the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen's the last 10, 2.87 ERA, starters ERA 6.02. I mean, the top of their rotation, which has been really good, has struggled as of late. But I think the offense is still going to be there, and I probably would go full game over as well because Oakland's offense has been okay. They scored 5+ runs in 6 of the last 10, including that 19 spot versus Baltimore. Spence on the other side, you ran off his numbers. He's allowed 4+ in 3 of his last 5 starts. The over's hitting 4 of those 5 starts. So I think we see some runs here from Philadelphia. Maybe if you want to take, it should be probably around like 4.5, 5 maybe.
You're talking about team total?
Team total.
I'm assuming it's going to be 5.5.
Oh, 5.5. Well, I'll take that. Yeah, I think they score 7 or 8 runs here.
I'm just saying full game total's 9.5. They're like minus.
Oh, okay.
So
I don't know why I don't know why I thought it was lower. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
And if you're curious about the actual run line in this game, it's about +105.
Yeah,
so
I'll definitely take
that's
that.
an option for Philly.
Definitely take that.
Yep. Moving on to the next game, you have a matchup between the Guardians, the reeling Guardians, and the Rays, who are still not very good, but even they could beat the Yankees 2 out of 3. For this matchup, you have Gavin Williams taking on Littell. The Guardians are -115. The Rays are -105. Rays are still right around 500, slightly below. Guardians are 22 over, but they have not been in good form. They did lose the series to Detroit, and Flaherty destroyed them on Thursday as he gave up 1 run, and that's all the Guardians got. But they have lost 3 of their last 4. If you want to dig deeper, they've been kind of struggling for about a week or so. And I do think based on the matchup and the current form, both pitchers are kind of similar. Littell is a bigger sample size, but ERA is pretty similar. Whip's pretty similar. But Littell, going through the last couple of starts, he got killed by Texas. Was pretty good for 3 straight starts before that, though, giving up 2 runs or less in 3 straight. He's not going to go much length, but I do think he's decent enough to keep the Guardians in check. It's mostly not wanting to lay with the Guardians, who've been in really bad form for the last week or 2. I'm going to link the Tampa at home. Beat the Yankees in a series, don't have to travel. We saw Cleveland no-show a couple games offensively in that series against Detroit. Traveling to the Trop, that's never easy. I'm going to link to Tampa in this game.
Yeah, definitely with you on that. I think Tampa's just in better form right now. Cleveland last 10, the starting pitchers ERA 6.04. Is it still Gavin Williams that's going?
That's what I see. So.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. Yeah, he's had one good start, 1 bad start versus 2 below average offenses, the White Sox and Detroit. And Tampa's offense has been up and down, but his length is getting long. His length is getting longer as far as going through the game. Littell is what he is. He usually bounces back after bad performances, and he had a bad one in his last start, 7 earned runs on 9 hits. If you just look at just what he did just in his previous 5 starts, he gave up 6 versus Atlanta. He followed it up by giving up 2 against Minnesota. So I think you could follow that up with Cleveland, whose offense is good overall, but like you mentioned, just struggling as of late. So give me Tampa at home. Maybe go first 5, a little bit heavier than the full game.
Yeah, I am going to throw out, by the way, the actual home ERA for Littell. It is roughly a full run less than his average. So he has been a lot better at home than on the road.
Yeah.
3.57 ERA at home, and his ERA on the road is 5.53. So something to keep in mind, but I'll link to Tampa in this one. I don't think they're very good, but I don't like how Cleveland's played. So give me the team that's not in a slump. Moving on to the next game, you have the Rockies taking on the Mets. For this one, you have Feltner taking on Scott. You have the Mets at about -225, give or take, and the Rockies are around +185. For the over-under, you have a total of, finding it, 8.5 or 9. A lot of split lines here between sportsbooks. Scott was good his last outing, but he got a no decision out of it, or I don't believe he got the loss because did he get the loss in that one? I'm trying to remember.
I think it was. I don't think he got a loss.
5 2/3, 1 hit, 2 runs. So I don't remember if he got the loss in that. But the point is, he was good last time out. He has allowed less than 3 runs in 3 of his last 4. He did not get the loss. Orzi got the loss after recording no outs. So not a good sign for him. But Scott's been good. And you're looking at Feltner, who I think is a mess most of the time. So I am going to go with the Mets. I think that they're in good form to sweep the series. The Rockies are terrible on the road, being 13-34. Offense has not been great lately for them, and Feltner has been better on the road, I'll admit it, and he has been good lately. He has given up less than 3 earned in 3 straight, but the sad part is the Rockies lost all 3 of those starts. So the bullpen's the worst bullpen in the league. Mets are in pretty good form after beating the Nationals in a series. Good enough for me. Give me the Mets -1.5.
Yeah, I like the Mets as well. One thing that Feltner does have going for him, one of the best over pitchers in the majors. So I'm gonna go with the over in the matchup. I think both. Colorado's offense has been like kind of tricky to follow. They perform well in some instances, and in other instances where they're not supposed to perform well, they do. Both bullpens have been atrocious the last 10, 7.76 ERA for Colorado, like you mentioned, worst in the majors, 8.31 ERA for the Mets bullpen. Opponents hitting over 300 versus each bullpen. So I think we see a ton of runs here. He's had Feltner's had back-to-back solid performances, 2 earned runs combined. I think we can look to fade that coming here. So I like the Mets run line. Also like the over in the game.
Yep. Moving on to the next game, you have the Royals taking on the Red Sox. You have Lugo pitching against Crawford. The Red Sox are about -130, give or take, and the Royals are about +110. For the over-under in this game, you have the line being set at, sorry, just pulling it up quickly. The line is set at 9 or 9.5. So once again, shop your lines in the totals. Crawford was very good to start the season. Then he slumped, and then he bounced back because he's been good lately. Ended up giving up no runs against the Yankees, gave up 1 run against the Marlins, but he has given up less than 4 earned in at least in 5 straight. So he's been fine recently. To mention the actual home road splits for Crawford, he has been a lot better on the road than at home. A 2.35 ERA on the road, a 4.15 ERA at home, so keep that in mind. But for this matchup, you have Lugo pitching, who's been solid. We know the Royals offensively have been a lot worse on the road than at home. I'm kind of leaning to the under, actually. I think both pitchers can actually pitch well here, and 9.5 feels a bit high to me. I'm going to go with the under in this one.
Yeah, always tricky taking the under with Boston, with their offense. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, Kansas City's offense, I don't really know what to make of it. It's pretty much boom or bust. I think we talked about it plenty of times. It's just home run or strikeout. It's really no in between. Every now and then they'll have a game where they hit the ball well, but that
I mean, you're looking at Pasquantino, who occasionally has a good game, but it's mostly just can Witt and Perez generate enough offense to beat
pretty
the
much. Yeah,
pretty
much. So yeah, I'm leaning that way as well. I think Boston's going to have a good series here. They've won 8 of the last 10, 52 runs in those 8 wins. So they're going well. Maybe a first 5 over, and then we kind of see the bullpens come in and be okay. But I like Boston here. I'll lay the 1.5 with Boston at home.
All right. I think I'll just take the money line, but I am going to lean to the under. 9.5 just feels too high with those 2 pitchers. Moving on to the next game, you have the Marlins taking on the Reds. For this one, the Reds are laying about 165, 170, give or take. And you're looking at the Marlins in this game being around +140. The over-under in this game is set at 9. So Abbott's pitching for the Reds. He's been really good in that rotation this year. And you have Cabrera pitching for Miami, who has not. 6.84 ERA. Miami, we saw struggle in the series against Houston. Not a shock. Houston's a good team. They're not. But the Reds have been fine recently. Abbott, though, is off of a dominant performance against the Rockies, so he's been in good form. At home, 2.8 ERA as well, but he has allowed less than 4 runs in 4 straight. And the Reds have won 4 straight of his starts, or I should say 4 straight starts that he's made. Cabrera's not any good. Abbott is. That's good enough for me. And Miami, I think, struggles against lefties in general. So give me the Reds, potentially -1.5.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit on everything that I was going to bring up. 222 versus lefties is Miami, 2.9 hits and runs per 9. I mean, Abbott should be able to, mow them down. Maybe if you want to take a strikeout prop. He's had a low hit rate, has not allowed over 4 hits in his last 5 starts. I don't expect that to change with this offense. If you look at Miami's last 10, they're 2-8. Those 2 wins came against the White Sox. So if it wasn't for the White Sox, they probably would have been on a worse losing streak. Cincinnati's comfortable. This is their 3rd straight home series. 3 out of the 4 during that span versus weak opponents. So I think they're pretty much put the pedal to the floor and blow Miami's out. I'm going to Cincinnati run line. Definitely will take the first 5 run line as well.
By the way, Cincinnati run line right now is plus 134.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah. We'll be
keep that
talking
in
about
mind.
that later for sure.
Yep. Moving on to the next game, you have the Rangers taking on the Astros. For this one, you have Uvalde taking on Arrighetti. The Rangers are about minus 125. The Astros are around plus 105, and the over/under in this game is set at about 8.5. Now, Arrighetti, I remember, was pretty good against the Twins on Sunday. Killed my over, but that was mostly because both teams stopped scoring against the bullpens. But Arrighetti was good last time out. He's been pretty good at home this season compared to his overall numbers, but his ERA at home is still over 5. That's how bad he's been this year. Uvalde, looking at his numbers, he's been fine for the most part this season. Houston, we know, has been in pretty good form. Texas has been fine, not really good on the road as they are 8 under on the road, where Houston is currently 8 over at home. But Uvalde, 6-3, a 3.1 ERA. Been terrible on the road, though, a 5.4 ERA. And against Houston, he has made 1 start, 6 innings, 5 runs. So with that being the case, he has been good lately, though. He has given up a total of 2 runs in his last 2 starts combined. But I do think that both starts being at home helped him. He's not been good on the road. And I do think Houston's dangerous in the juice box park, or the juice box. So give me the Astros on the money line. I'm curious how Jordan is health-wise, because I think he left another game early the other day, so we'll see what happens to him.
Surprise.
Yeah, he gets injured every year. That's why I'll never take his home run props or his MVP odds, because he gets hurt every year. Point is, though, I am going to lean to Houston. They're just better at home than Texas is on the road, and Uvalde's been a really bad road pitcher. I don't mind the over potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe Texas team total over if you want to fade Arrighetti by himself, but I'm going to lean to Houston in the spot.
Yeah, it was tough for me to kind of split the hairs with the on the line. So I mean, I want to bet on both of these teams. I mean, they've been in good form. 7-3 in their last 10. Houston has won 4 of 7 versus Texas this year. Each team has won. I mean, who has won by 2+ runs. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind as well. But I like the over. I think you broke it down with Arrighetti. Don't trust him. Of all these home and road splits, he did allow 5 earned runs on 8 hits in his April start versus Houston. And I think we both can agree Houston wasn't playing as well then as they are now. So I mean, they're averaging 6.8 runs per 9 in their last 10 versus righties. Both teams averaging 6.2 runs per 9 in their last 10. So I think we see some runs here, Scott. I mean, both teams score 5+ runs pretty frequently in their last 10. So with the unknown of Arrighetti, although he's been a little better, I think you mentioned it at the top. I still don't trust him. I think both teams can get over this number.
All right, I agree. Moving on to the next game, you have the Nationals taking on the Brewers. For this game, you have Parker against Keuchel, so a couple lefties going at it. Keuchel joined the team midseason, somehow not been atrocious, a 4.61 ERA. I don't know how the Brewers did it, but he actually can somewhat not embarrass himself out there. Parker, though, has been good this season with a 3.44 ERA. The Brewers are minus 125. The Nationals are plus 105. And the over-under in this game is set at 8.5 or 9. So, once again, Keuchel's been fine. Parker's been objectively solid this season. But Keuchel has not been good in Milwaukee. He made 1 home start. First start that he made this year, 4 innings, 5 runs. So we'll see how he looks in this one. But no runs against the Dodgers, 2 runs against the Rockies in Coors. I can't explain it, but he's been fine. So I think I might lean to the under in this game, as dangerous as it sounds, but no way I bet this game. The Nationals were not great against the Mets for the last couple days, and the Brewers were okay despite Skeens destroying them yesterday. I'm going to lean under. I'll lean to, I guess, Milwaukee, but I'm probably not going to play anything in this game.
Yeah, it was tough for me as well because, I mean, how much do you buy into like what Keuchel's been doing as of late? I mean, 3-0 and 2 combined runs in his last 2 starts. He is having some walk issues though. 7 walks in his last 2. Milwaukee isn't they're above average versus lefties, but when you get lefties in their building or they're in ballpark, I guess whatever you want to call it, 281 versus them at home, 6 runs per 9. Washington's on a 5-game losing streak. I like Washington. I really do. I mean, it just can't be consistent enough. And Milwaukee, speaking of consistency, inconsistent on offense. I mean, they've scored 9 runs, then 2, then 9 runs, then 0. So if that trend, continues, they'll score 9 runs here. So I'm going to go with Milwaukee on the run line. Also like the over. So I'll go over. Maybe we get some fireworks in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm still not going to bet this game. Full disclosure. Moving on to the next game, you have the Braves taking on the Padres. For this one, you have Lopez against Cease. The Braves are minus 130. The Padres are plus 110. Over/under in this game is set at 7.5. Now Lopez has been great this season, 7-2 with a 1.71 ERA, but his ERA on the road is 2.33, which is fine. Point is though, he's been unbelievable at home, which has helped. But Lopez is really consistent because he's allowed less than 3 earned runs in every start since April 30th, which sounds almost impossible, but he has allowed less than 3 earned runs in 11 straight starts. So he's been completely dialed in. Looking at Cease, he's been kind of up and down this season, does strike out a lot of guys generally. So far this season, he does have an ERA in the 4s, though, so not exactly a great year for him. After the Padres acquired him right before the start of the season, better at home, though, a 3.69 ERA at home. But looking at his recent starts, he has been getting, I'd say, some up and down results. He has given up at least 3 runs in 3 of his last 4. Actually, 4 of his last 5. So he's been recently kind of struggling. Last start against Arizona, he was okay. 7 innings, 3 runs, but he did give up 2 home runs. Giving up 2 home runs in each of his last 2 starts. He has given up at least 1 home run in 5 of his last 7 starts, so we'll see how he looks against Atlanta. For this one, though, I think I am going to lean to the under, maybe first 5 under, but I do think Lopez will pitch fine, and I do think that Cease can pitch okay against the Braves team that offensively has been better recently, but still not a great unit, at least from what we thought they were going to be entering the season. I don't mind the under here. I think you're going to see a lower scoring game.
Yeah, I like the under as well. I thought Waldron was going, but I guess they scratched him and put Cease. He was on to go earlier, but either way, it doesn't change my opinion. I mean, Lopez, you went over his numbers: 0.80 ERA in his last 5, 2 earned runs in 6 1/3 versus San Diego on 520. And, I was waiting on Atlanta's offense to kind of break out. They had a pretty good series versus the D-backs, and then they didn't score last night when I had the over. So I think maybe we'll see a little bit more after All-Star break. But I just don't see a lot of runs here. I mean, maybe a low-scoring 3-2 type of game, maybe a first 5 under. I don't know if that may be a little bit better. But even the bullpen for Atlanta has been lights out. It's just their offense can't get anything going. So I'll lean. I want to play the first 5 under, but I'll lean to the full game under as well.
Yeah, I also see a question from Gio in the comment section asking if we should consider potentially taking Cease to win the NL Cy at about 11-1. In reality, I think he's winning Rookie of the Year, and that's it. I know he's 6-0 with an ERA in the 1s, but he also ended up missing the entire April because of service time manipulation. So I don't actually know the history between missing at least a month of the season and still winning MVP. In reality, I think he gets Rookie of the Year and nothing else, unless he ends up finishing like with an ERA below 2 or something insane. But he needs to basically continue what he's doing if he's going to have a shot at it. I think he'll finish short. I think he'll be a finalist. I think he'll finish in like 3rd. That's my guess. 11-1's not terrible, but
yeah, it's not. It's not.
In reality, I don't see them giving it to a rookie. Do you?
I mean, the one thing I'm worried about is his, like, I don't know how Pittsburgh's going to handle him. Like, are they going to shut him down if they are like not in contention? Because Jarrett Jones went on IL, if I'm not mistaken. So he's basically the only guy that they have. I mean, Ortiz is fine, but I mean, he's the only horse in the lineup. So I mean, how much pressure are they going to put on him? And he might have to shrink his day's rest. Which I mean, if you watched him at LSU, you saw him throw like 100 pitches in the College World Series like 3 times in a row. So I don't know. It's intriguing. I mean, I would go small on it. It just depends on what everybody else does around him as well. But right now, I mean, I think that's anything above double digits.
And right now, it's been breaking in his favor because Rangers kind of falling apart, and Imanaga's had a couple blow up starts. Right. So
yeah, I think we can just scratch off Imanaga.
At this point, probably.
Yeah, but again, it just depends on what Pittsburgh does with him. I mean, you never know what the organization is going to do. I mean, they see his star level, and they are. I guess they're flirting with the wild card, but I mean, do we really think that they're going to do anything? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, so I don't think so. But I mean, I don't hate that number. You know what I'm saying? I would keep it small, like he's saying. But yeah, I think he'll be fine, and then he'll open up probably like second favorite next year.
I think 11-1 is going to drop. So if you want to talk about like closing line value, it will drop at some point to like 7 or 6-1. So if you want to take it now, you can. But in reality, I don't think he's going to win. I think the voters will purposefully not give it to a rookie, if I had to guess. But we'll see what happens. And then, as you said, it'll be one of the favorites next year, and they might give it to him then.
Absolutely.
Anyway, moving on to the next game, you have the Twins taking on the Giants. For this game, you have Birdsong pitching for the Giants, and you have Woods Richardson pitching for the Twins. The Twins are minus 115, the Giants are minus 105, and the over-under in this game is set at about 8 or 8.5. Now, the issue with Birdsong is he goes no length, but he's been fine so far this season. But he has gone to less than 5 1/3 in all 3 outings so far this year. But he's been consistent. He's gone 4 2/3, 2 runs, 5 innings, 2 runs, 4 2/3, 3 runs. So I'll see how he looks in this one. Woods Richardson, though, has been fine. He's kind of a steady 5 or 6 inning guy, 2 earned runs. That's kind of what you get on a regular basis. Giants, though, not in good form. We saw Toronto beat them yesterday after getting to Jordan Hicks early. I'm going to lean to Minnesota. I think they're the better team. I understand they're a lot better at home than on the road, but I'm not sure the Giants can hit. And I do think Woods Richardson has been consistent enough to kind of be worthy of being a bigger favorite in the spot. 115, I find that line too cheap. I'm going to go with Minnesota. You?
Yeah, I kind of like Minnesota as well, but I remember we talked about it on like the Futures podcast. Minnesota only 4.5 back of that division. I think we both like them. Yeah, they're hanging around. I mean, I think they need to get an arm or two in that rotation to kind of shore it up. But their offense,
an arm or two, or they need Lopez to remember how to pitch. It's one of the two.
Yeah, that too. But I'm just completely not trusting him. Because we know he's going to pitch brilliant, like one start, and then he'll get shelled in another. So no consistency. So, but the offense, I think they have nothing to worry about. I mean, they're hitting like almost 300 the last 10, 6.2 runs per 9, 10.5 hits. San Francisco's been struggling versus righties, 217 in the last 10. Woods Richardson's been fine, low hit rate, not allowed over 4 hits in a 5-game span. 4 of his last 5 starts have went over. He does get a ton of run support. If you look at just his starts, he gets a ton of run support. And that's credit to the Minnesota offense. They scored 5+ runs in 6 of the last 10. Both bullpens have been pretty good. I'm going to go first 5 over, Scott. I think San Francisco's been a pretty good offense starting off, especially at home. And you mentioned the length for Birdsong. So Minnesota, as hot as they are offensively, I think they'll score their runs, and we'll get San Francisco to score a few early on. So I'm going Minnesota in the first 5 over.
All right. Moving on to the next game, you have the Mariners taking on the Angels. For this one, pretty good pitching matchup, actually, as you have Kirby going up against Soriano. For this one, you have the Mariners at about minus 165. You have the Angels at about plus 140, and the over-under in this game is set at 8. So we know Seattle normally can hit, except yesterday. Raleigh is their only consistent home run threat. I think he had 2 yesterday. But Kirby's been good, 7-6 with a 3.39 ERA. He's had a couple of bad blow-up starts, but he's been pretty solid besides that. He has given up less than 4 earned runs in I actually got to dig pretty deep in this one. What is that? 7, 9. So 8 straight starts. He's allowed less than 3 earned. He's allowed less than 4 earned. He's allowed less than 3 earned in 7 of his last 8. So he's been in great form recently. And the question is he going to look sharp again against the Angels? I'm voting yes. I think he'll be fine. Soriano, I think, is okay. I think that Seattle's the better team, and Soriano is a pitcher that I think is underrated, but I have to at least point out, based on his record being 4-7, his team doesn't actually score runs for him ever. But Soriano, also mentioning his home road splits, he has been a lot better on the road than at home. At home, a 5.54 ERA in about 26 innings. So I am going to go with the Mariners here, probably first 5 minus a half. Yeah. I think that they can get a great performance from Kirby. I think he'll give up 2 runs, and maybe they can jump on Soriano. So give me Seattle first 5 minus a half.
Yeah, man, I'm done with the Angels, man. I went on VSiN and they embarrassed me giving out that. I mean, it was 101 shot, but still, they've looked lifeless.
Well, Sean mentioned it that same day, because I was on the show later and I laughed at him. I didn't know it was your pick at the time.
Yeah, you were laughing at me, not Sean, so it's fine.
I didn't know. But
it's all good. It's all good. No love lost. Seattle's dominated this team last 10. They're 9-1 last 10. They won 6 in a row. 5 of those 6 have been by 2+ runs. I don't think we need to overthink it. Just Seattle run line. Offense has been a little bit better, like you mentioned, over the last few series. 20 combined runs in the last 3. If you look at the Angels, I mean, they're 2-8 last 10, scoreless in 4. Yep.
And
despite Kirby, like you mentioned, I think Kirby's just his ERA is 1.60 in his last 5, but he's 2-3. So you mentioned it with the run support. I think Seattle will come out and be able to crush against the Angels. So I wanted Seattle. You're getting all 9 at bats. I'll take the run line. I love the first 5 call by you as well.
Yeah, it tells you how important that Reichel was to the lineup because he got injured and the team forgot to hit. So just keep that in mind. Fun question here, trivia question. Do you know who led off for the Angels yesterday?
I probably couldn't name you 3 Angels on the roster right now.
I'll give you a hint. He's been around for a while.
Let's see. I'm trying to think about who's on their roster. Let's see.
Reichelo's still injured, so it's not Reichel.
Yeah. Let's go with somebody that's been around for a while. We had him. Rendon.
That is correct.
But
who's we? What do you mean we?
No. I mean, I'm thinking about like whenever he was with not the Yankees. Who was he with last year?
That's why I got confused.
Yeah, who was he with last year?
The Angels.
He was with the Angels last year? Okay. He was just injured. Okay, got you.
He's injured every year.
Yeah, right.
But the point is, Rendon is alive, which I didn't really know at the time, but he was leading off, which I thought was pretty funny. Anyway, that was the reinforcements they got. Moving on to the last game of the slate, you have the Blue Jays taking on the Diamondbacks. For this one, you have a pretty interesting pitching matchup between Berrios and Diaz. Diaz, relative unknown, but he was good against the Braves his first start. Diamondbacks are favored, actually, at minus 130. You have the Blue Jays at about plus 110. Berrios has been good this season, but it's kind of the same story every year. He is always better at home than on the road. This is what it is. So far this season on the road, 2-5 with a 4.55 ERA. Diaz only made 1 start, but he shut down the Braves, so he looked pretty good. The Blue Jays, though, are 7 under. This team stinks, and it's why I never back them. So Diamondbacks have been in good form recently. Blue Jays, though, have been hitting recently. So they were in really bad form. Then they ended up scoring 5+ in 4 of their last 5. Did win the series against the Mariners. Did win a series against the Giants. But still 7 under. Still in last place in the AL East. They're going to blow up the team. The only question is when and how far is the blow-up going to go. I'm assuming they're not going to trade Vlad, but we'll see what happens. For the actual Diamondbacks, though, I mentioned before, the offense has been fine for the most part. Did win a game 1-0 against the Braves yesterday, but they have been in pretty good form recently. So I'm going to ask you, do you think the Braves should be do you think the Diamondbacks should be favored, even though Diaz has basically 1 start to his name?
Yeah, small sample size, but a good one in that sample size. I kind of like Berrios, to be honest. He's been the only pitcher that I've been kind of backing for Toronto, but I mean,
he's found he's really bad on the road.
Yeah, 4+ runs in 4 of his last 5 starts. Has been getting good run support as well. But home runs, man, he's been allowed 8 in his last 5 starts. Above average contact rate. I think we see some runs here, Scott. I'm going to go with the over. I know Diaz pitched that gym, but maybe he comes down to earth a little bit and we can get over this number. So I'm leaning over, struggle with the side. I probably can make a case for each side.
Yeah, shout out to Toronto, though, because I had the first 5 team total over yesterday.
Oh, they scored that 5 spot.
And that they scored 3 in the first inning, and they scored about, 3 runs in about 5 minutes. Yeah. So it was really just sweat-free. Jordan Hicks has been really bad recently. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for all 16 games. Before we get into any of the lock and dog picks and the home run picks, do want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by Rhythm, because Rhythm is a great place to help you with your player props, because Rhythm's the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actual insights, empowering bettors with smarter data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easier and more enjoyable. Their predictive model was born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to making better AI-backed betting decisions. Rhythm's also been great with their projections recently in WNBA and golf. Sign up the promo code, or I should say sign up and claim your free 7-day trial by going to sportscamppockets.com/rhythm, sportscamppockets.com/RITHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Just finished going through all the games on Saturday. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. Lonte, I'm going to let you go first. What is your lock for the show?
Yeah, I'm going to a game that we both, I think, kind of like. I don't know if you played the side or not, but I like Minnesota. I think they're laying a cheap number. We're going to get all 9 at bats with a hot offense. You mentioned Birdsong not going linked. I think that's going to get to him early. If they can jump on him and get him out of there in 2 innings, 2 1/3, I think they have the advantage, especially with Woods Richardson on the mound, not allowing a lot of hits at all. He's got a good defense behind him as well. The bullpens, have been better. The bullpens have been better than the starters for each of these teams. So I'm expecting a lot of runs from Minnesota. I'm going to Minnesota tomorrow in San Francisco to get the job done.
Okay, and what is your dog?
Yeah, dog Scott. I'm making this completely right to the point. Simple handicap. I mean, if you're gonna give me Philly at plus money on the run line, -1.5 against the A's, I'm taking it every time against Spence. Give me Philly -1.5 on the run line.
All right. So for my lock, I think I actually am going to go back to that Seattle game. I think I am going to go with Kirby in the first 5 -0.5 a run. Seattle's won 3 straight. They've given up no runs in their last 2 games combined. We know the Angels can't hit. You mentioned that they've been shut out like 4 times in the last 7 games.
10.
Yeah, or whatever. Renjifo's still out. They used Rendon as their leadoff guy. Congrats, he's still alive, but they have been terrible recently. The Angels are 10 under at home as well, so they're not a good home team. Kirby, though, has been so damn good that I think he'll be able to pitch well in this one. And Soriano's been fine this season, but his home numbers are really bad. So I do think that Seattle can score a couple. 1 run might get it done here. If Kirby just goes out and pitches 5 scoreless, I would not be shocked. So give me the Mariners first 5 on the run line -0.5. I don't have a price on that, but it should be pretty affordable based on where the actual full game money line price is located. And for the dog, I am going to go with the Reds -1.5 at about +134. The Reds, simply put, have the much better pitcher on the mound with Abbott, who's been phenomenal recently. You're looking at the Reds being at home and the Marlins being a terrible team anyway. Cabrera's been terrible for the entire season, and I do think Abbott, based on his performance against Colorado last time out, based on his numbers this season, and just overall good numbers at home, he's been very good at home this season. I think he's going to pitch well, and I do think that the Marlins will struggle to do anything in this game offensively. But Cabrera's walked 15 guys in 25 innings, and I think that he can let up a lot of base runners here. So with Cabrera's last couple starts, by the way, he has not really gone any length. He has gone less than 4 2/3 in 4 straight, but he has also an ERA of 9 on the road, so not exactly ideal. Give me the Reds -1.5 at +134 as my dog. Anyway, a reminder before we officially wrap up, we do have home run picks to give out. Lonte, I'm going to let you go first. What is your home run pick for Saturday?
Yeah, so I'm going to Brandon Nimmo for the Mets. He's been hot as of late, hitting a home run in 3 of his last 4. He's had a hit in 1, 2, 3.
He had a big double yesterday in the 5th inning.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 5 straight. So he's seeing the ball well. Going against Feltner, I think Feltner is. We mentioned it. He's going to give up a home run. He's been pretty consistent as of late, but I think that the Mets break that. So give me Nimmo for the dinger tomorrow.
All right. So for my home run pick, I got to figure out which game I want to do first because I think I know where I'm going, but I just want to make sure. I thought about maybe fading Hendricks, but now I'm not going to bother with that one. Trying to think of what I want to do for the home run options here. I'm kind of gravitating towards that Reds game because I think Cabrera might give up a couple of nukes because he's not any good. But I am wondering who exactly I want to go with because Cabrera, to go through his numbers this season, he is a righty, by the way. I mentioned how bad his actual numbers are, but to go through his splits against lefties and righties, righties have been better against him. But I do think based on that, I might go with a player that's been in pretty good form recently. I thought about maybe doing Hines, actually, the rookie for the Reds, who's been incredible for the last week. But
Yes.
I think instead I'm going to go with Steer. I think Steer's been in good form. He had a home run a couple days ago against the Rockies. He had 3 hits and a double on Thursday. I like the form he's in. I think he's a solid batter, and I do think that he's in line to hit well in this one. At home this season, he has 8 home runs, so I do think he's in line to potentially hit one. But I'm going to go with Spencer Steer in this one, fading Cabrera. Besides that, though, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. A reminder, we're back for the weekend. We have no episode for the Sunday games, but we have the Home Run Derby coming up. So I know Adam and I are going to be back to break that down. Until next time, find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Find me on Twitter at Lonte or at XXLonteXX. Also find Lonte covering Summer League stuff on Twitter and let other people know where they can find you.
Yeah, I was supposed to do an article, but I just didn't get around to it for the summer league. But yeah, I'll be doing some like rapid reactions and different things. I'll probably tweet it out or whatever the case may be. So just XX Lonte XX. You can find me there, all my thoughts, and especially during the weekend, we'll be giving out some futures and different things for during the All-Star break.
Yep. A reminder that the WNBA show is still going on. Terrell and I did an episode earlier today for Friday and Saturday, so keep that in mind. Got tennis as well. Swept the podcast from yesterday. Going to have an episode tonight, an episode tomorrow as well for Wimbledon. But until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.